Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I hope you've had a chance to get some coffee, get some snacks, and settle back in. Next up, we have a presentation from our event and community partner, Front. Kenji Hayoud, the Senior Director of Support at Front, is here to discuss how you can leverage AI to build high-impact support teams without increasing headcount. Make sure you add any questions you have to the chat for Kenji to answer at the end. Thank you.
Thanks, Brianna, and thanks everybody for joining. Hopefully you enjoyed your break. We're gonna have fun with this one. I would love to do a live Q&A at the end, so I'm gonna breeze through some of these, but let me go ahead and share my screen here, and hopefully you can see this. Cool. All right, well, today we are talking about beyond headcount, so scaling an AI-powered support team of the future. I'm going to be sharing a lot of my personal experiences of how I've done this myself with my own team. And so the first thing I want to talk about is the myth of the magic ratio. So everyone who's worked in support or CX has been chasing this dragon, this magical myth of the perfect balance of agents to customers to tickets. But all of that's been flipped on its head. So with AI's introduction, if you're not already introducing this, baking this into your staffing models, you need to rethink how you're planning for your headcount. This is changing rapidly, and when I look at my team today, we serve over 9,000 customers, and we deflect 58% of those chatbot inquiries via AI self-service. And what I want you to do is actually either take a mental screenshot or maybe even a physical screenshot of this org. This is in full transparency, this is my support team, obviously without the names or faces, but this is what my team looked like in 2022. And at the end of this presentation, I'm going to show you how this has evolved. So feel free to take a screenshot or just remember, and I'll go on. And so I'm going to talk to you about how I've actually scaled out this team without adding additional headcounts. A little bit of a spoiler, you will see about the same amount of folks, but I'm going to show you how I did this and added even more customers that we support today. So the first pillar we're going to talk about, and there are three, is to leverage AI strategically. So think about, are we being thoughtful about using and applying it where we can truly add value? So a lot of the things that I've seen, and maybe you've already talked about this in previous talks, we get so excited about AI and the application of it that we just get headfirst into implementing it without actually thinking about where can we get the most value and ROI from. The second thing is to invest in your people. So when I say that scaling with less is better, that doesn't mean to cut your existing team down. That means to invest in the team that you have today. So are we investing in our team's growth? Are we providing them with the skills and the opportunities that they need to succeed? And the last thing is to measure what matters. And this is really important because as the technologies are changing, so is the way that we're measuring. So the things that we measured human performance on are not going to work on those AI generated interactions. And so let's talk about leveraging AI strategically. So the step one is probably pretty obvious, but it's curating a killer tech stack. So AI is going to be a big part of your tech stack. The changing landscape that I've seen in the last year, and maybe you're seeing this too, is that you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. So, maybe a couple of years ago, that was the case. You'd have an all-in-one solution and that would be your AI tool and everything else. You want to make sure that you've got the interoperability. So the integration is key. Don't chase the features. Don't sign up just because it's got a killer chatbot. Really look at it holistically. What are the pieces that you're missing and can those play well together? And then prioritizing tools with robust APIs. So very similar, like think about your stack today and how that will talk to any of their APIs or integrations that you plan to use. And then the last thing is think long-term. Like do not think of this as an experiment for 30 days, 3 months, 6 months. Really think about this long and hard about the foundation that you're building. The analogy I like to use is think about a beautiful set of blocks, maybe Legos if you like Legos. But if they don't fit together well, it's not going to work out. So this is how I think about it. Think about how things are going to fit together, really zoom out and take the time to plan, even though it's very exciting. Like I'm so excited to be here at this summit and talking about so many of these new things that are rolling out, but we really just have to slow down sometimes and get the foundation right. The best advice I'll give you for this is to test internally. So this is something that I've always preached, but even pre-AI, when you're releasing a new workflow, and especially with AI, if AI is going to interact with your customers, you're going to want to do that internally first. And it's actually great for a few reasons. So number one, again, we're not exposing this untested resource to customers. We're vetting it out with the team. We're getting quality feedback. We're also building trust with the team because we're showing the ROI. How are we making the team's life easier? Are we helping them draft replies quicker? Are we automatically tagging conversations? Are we able to analyze data that we couldn't before? And then the last thing I'll say is, if you're looking for a place to start with an AI assistant. So think about your agent's day. We all work in different fields. I work in tech and SaaS, and that might not apply if you work in logistics. But think about your day of the front line. Like, what are they doing? What are those repeatable things that you can take off their plate and make their life a little bit better? That's going to build trust. You don't want to shove AI down their throat. You don't want to do do as I say, not as I do. I really like the approach of a phased approach. Keep it internal, use it with your team, bring them along on the journey, and then show them how this will make their life better. And you're going to have a much smoother transition. And knowledge management is key. So data is gold, especially in this era right now. If you have garbage data, you're going to get garbage out. So garbage in, garbage out. The same goes for your help center. The same goes for your documentation. This has never been more important, because if you think about the different resources, the different knowledge sources that you feed your AI bot or your, whatever form of AI you're using, it'll typically pull from, whether it's internal or customer facing, your help center, your KB, and you're going to want to make sure that those are up to date and relevant. And that's why you want to have someone dedicated to this. And my favorite part about this is it's a paradox, right? We are scaling support without growing the team, but that does not mean you stop investing in your people. It actually means you invest more than ever. You want to upskill your team. They're going to create new roles. And I'm going to talk to you about how I've done this with my team. So one of the things I'm really proud of in the last year is we implemented a support operations team. So if you're someone like me, and maybe you're a support team who does not have an operations team today, these are the 3 roles that I would hire if I were you. And I will tell you in this order. So number 1, like we talked about, knowledge is power, data is gold. So the first hire you're going to want to make for your operations team is your support program specialist, or knowledge manager, whatever you want to call it, but somebody who's going to focus on the documentation piece, keeping it up to date, creating new documentation, what's going to feed the flywheel of information and the knowledge. The next thing you want to do is support operations analyst. This is key because the way that we demonstrate impact as support teams with AI, we now have access to analyze more data than ever before, customer data. And so to do that, you're going to need somebody who's focused on sharing these trends out to your C-suite, to your product team. This is how we demonstrate value. This is how we show we need an operations team. And last but not least, I'm really excited to let y'all know that we have a support operations developer as of a couple of months ago. So think of this as your very own, internal engineer who can build those workflows that you dream of. This is where it really starts to unlock and come together. But these 3 pieces, if you want to keep it super lean, you can have these 3, and it'd be the most high impact operations team that you can build. A debate that I have seen in the 12, 13, God, I'm aging myself, years that I've been doing support is that we've always been looked at as a cost center, not a value driver. That is changing with AI. And the reason I say that is kind of like what I talked about before. The data is gold. We're able to surface that through analyzing large sets of customer information, whether that's pre-sale and post-sale, and really make support a strategic partner and driver. I also predict that support teams are going to have a lot more in the revenue side of the house. So as things are getting automated in, like simple requests, we're not going to have simple requests. Everything's going to be a high stakes interaction, and we're going to play an even bigger part on the customer journey. And so now that we've, really quickly gone over how we might scale a support operations team with 3 people, we need to measure what matters, because what matters now is not what mattered a year ago or 2 years ago. It's completely changed. And if you haven't changed your metrics, you're probably going to want to dust it off and look at your OKRs and see, are you incorporating the changes in AI and how you're using that in how you measure your success? And so we did a survey of all of our admins at Front, all 9,000 companies, and 80% agree that CSAT and metrics like that are probably going to be replaced by insights from AI, which I think is a great thing, because if you think about CSAT and other metrics that rely on surveys, you probably get 3 to 5%, 10% would be amazing of a reply rate, but with the automated AI versions, you get 100%. You're capturing 100% of your customers' feedback. So this is why it makes complete sense, whether it's QA, CSAT, these kind of tools are going to be what we're seeing. And so you have to think about this. We anchor a lot. I have a CSAT goal today still. I might not always have that as a goal as things change, but you really want to kind of change and push against the conventions of your traditional metrics. And speaking of non-traditional metrics, I want to introduce AXIS. So AXIS, AXIS, it stands for the AI Experience Impact Score. This is an innovative metric that I developed here at Front a few months ago. And the reason this came about was, I was happy with our deflection rate. Like I mentioned in the beginning, we have a very high deflection rate, 55, 56%. But of those deflections, what is the quality? What is the customer experience? So there wasn't a way to measure that. The metrics have not been evolving as quickly as the technology has. And so I took it upon myself to take a stab at it. And this is something that I have been experimenting with and actually have been using with my team for the last 3 months. So some of the findings that I've found were, while I had a high deflection rate, the quality was not as great as I thought. The score was a lot lower. The AXIS score was lower than I anticipated. This also gave me a lot of data to work with on where to improve. So you could tell me I have, a CSAT score of this or a BSAT score of this, but being able to dive in and actually be told where the friction's happening with customers was really key. And the simple way to think about this is think about customer effort score, but for AI. Okay. You remember that I had shared the original slide in the beginning, and this is how the team looks today. So it looks pretty similar, right? In terms of the number of people, we actually have the same exact number of folks on our team that we did in 2022, that we do in 2025, but roles have evolved. We've transitioned folks from both the technical and customer support team to support operations, and we've invested heavily in that area. So I think that the last thing I want to leave with is, there's probably a lot of talk about the future of CX, the future of customer support with AI. I believe we're going to grow, and we're just going to grow a little bit differently. So our org charts may not grow exponentially. It's actually a really good thing, but our team's going to grow. They're going to upskill. They're going to get different roles. They're going to get paid better. They're going to get more and more interaction and engagement. And I think that's good for all of us. So I'm really excited about just this point in time that we're at in CX with AI. And I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has on this. All right, so I see one question. So what is the AXIS score? So I will actually, let me see if I can drop a link in here for folks. All right, I'm gonna drop that in here. So the AXIS score this is actually available for everybody. This is not a Front exclusive metric. This is something that is available for anyone who can download this, and we've actually automated it as well. Oh, like how do you measure it and what are the factors? Yeah, perfect. So the way to measure it is one is the human handoff. So I think that's something super important that we don't measure today. So when a customer actually wants to talk to a human, how smooth was that handoff? The resolution accuracy, so how accurate was the response? And then the effort level, so how much friction did the customer experience with the bot? And I bet you'd be really surprised if you go back and look at a few of your chatbot interactions. Thanks, Vinova. Oh, I see a question from Tony. So during your onboarding process, how much time do you give internal testing? When are you confident that it's ready to be customer interfacing? I give as much time as needed. I really don't put an exact time on it. I think that once I have enough confidence from my team and they're comfortable, we'll move forward with it. At the longest, it's taken a quarter. On the shortest, it's taken 30 days, about a month. But I think that these are things that are so important. Like we talked about, it's foundational. Don't think about rolling this out for the next year. Think about how this is going to act for the next 5-10 years. And so it's okay to take the time to make sure you're 100% confident and talk to your team too. The other tip that I'll give is you'll notice the more tenured folks will be less likely to adopt newer AI features because they're so great at what they do. And, they've been doing this for, at least on my team, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And so it's hard to teach them new tricks with where AI is today. So just make sure to spend more time with your more tenured folks and really bring them along on the journey.
Hi, Kenji. I just wanted to add, we've got some other questions on the Q&A side of the chat, so I'll share those with you now. Sean asked, most people are going to be implementing an augmented human AI strategy. Because you already have a team, how would your approach have been different if you were starting from scratch or building support for a startup?
Oh, that's a good question. I actually want to do that at some point. I mean, I'm going to be in front forever, I think. But if I had to start over, if I'm putting myself in those shoes of rebuilding an entire company, I would scale very thoughtfully. Like the same way that founders are scaling, like AI startup founders, I would take that same approach to building a team as an AI startup support model. What I mean by that is I would just keep it very lean. I think the first person I would hire, or maybe that's me, would just be really focused on building out those workflows. So I would actually start operations first. Like if I could do it over again, I would look for someone who has the skills or the potential to do some of the operation roles. So maybe some of the documentation versus just somebody who's great with customers. I think that's what would change. I would look for a blend where I could see that person growing into being part of my ops team or maybe even building my ops team. I think that's what I would do differently. Like, I wouldn't wait 7 years like I did this time around. I would start with that.
Great. And then we also have a question from Jim. How did you identify which members of your team to transition to different roles?
Yeah, this kind of happened organically through, when you have really good managers, you know what your team is passionate about, you know what their zone of genius is. And so when I say this happened organically, we've always had a help center. Help centers have existed before AI. They've been around for a very long time. So we had somebody who was very passionate about documentation, and that was just a natural fit. For the support analyst role, this is someone who is great at just in-depth troubleshooting, like really loved working on analytics cases. And then when we had talked about career and conversation and growth, they'd expressed they didn't know what they wanted, but they know they wanted to do more of that. So in my case, my team's small enough where I kind of know where their passions are. And the last one, I knew for a very long time. So support, if I could do, like I talked about doing it over again, if I could do something over again, I wish I would have invested in the support operations developer role sooner. That would have made a much bigger impact. But the reason I had to kind of do this in this way was you got to build the foundation first and then kind of build up to that. But hopefully that's helpful.
That's great. We also have another follow-up from Sean. Would you hire fewer, more senior folks? Which end of the career ladder do you think the greatest impact will be, entry level or highly tenured?
That's a really good question. I think the tenured. I think you're going to see more tenured requirements. So as AI is automating more and more of the requests, like if you ask anybody, I'm sure everybody on this call, ask your team. There are no easy cases anymore. Everything, there's no cherry picking. Everything is hard, and it's getting harder. So my approach would be to initially maybe I would hire a level 1 or level 2. I would probably look a little more senior if I was starting over again. Look at L3, L4. Look at the more senior folks, because if I could leave with you with anything today, I'll say remember less but better, which is a term that's used in essentialism. So less folks in your team, but the best of the best. And that's kind of how I built the team at Front. There are no weak links. Everyone is amazing, and we have a very high bar. And I guarantee if I had went the other route and I hired, people who were maybe a lower level, we'd probably have a much bigger team. And so that's kind of the trade-off. It's not about spending less money. It's about hiring the best team possible, but keeping it small in number.
Fantastic, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions that we can get to for you? Just wait a minute. I really like that. And also I noticed that you've added into the main chat about how to build up the access score that you're talking about, which is great for anybody who's interested in that. You can follow the link there. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for joining. We'll give you some time back so you can enjoy. I know it's a long conference, long summit, so take some time, go take another coffee break, and please reach out to me. I'm very available, so if you want to add me on LinkedIn and you have any questions, I know I breeze through things really quickly. If you want to just talk one-on-one and pick my brain a little bit more, I would be happy to connect. Nothing makes me happier or more passionate than talking about this topic. So please reach out. It's Kenji Hayward. You can find me. I think I'm the only Kenji Hayward in the world, probably. Oh, thanks, Tony.
Got you added in there anyway.
Thanks, Brianna. Appreciate you.
Yeah, so follow that link, connect with Kenji on LinkedIn, and let him know anything that you're interested in chatting about. Yes, thank you so much for joining us, Kenji, then. It was a fantastic presentation, and I was enthralled the whole time. So fantastic for having you, and I'd love to see you again.
Thank you very much for having me. Thanks, y'all. I'll see ya. Bye.